buying compost from a garden centre that's been pasteurised,
Yeah.
unfortunately, is an absolute con for the
Yeah.
gardener. It's probably been pasteurised.
Right.
So it's got
It's
no
nothing.
microbes in it.
Yeah.
When you put it in your soil, you've got to wait probably about 2 to 3 months before that matter will become alive again for the
right.
microbes to move in.
Yeah, unreal.
It takes that long.
So much of the whole business of like home horticulture, that stuff
Yeah.
is literally to make money.
Absolutely, yeah.
And,
It's not to look after the soil.
No, not at all.
Hello, so today I'm at Yeo Valley Organic Garden, which is right next to Yeo Valley Dairy, and here they have a large-scale biochar kiln where they manage their woodland. And I'm going to go and meet the head gardener, Nathan, and I'm going to teach him how to make biochar in a small earthy biochar kiln. So thanks for having us here at Yeo Valley Organic
Very
Garden.
welcome, yeah, no worries.
Could you tell me a bit about how you guys use biochar in the garden?
We're lucky enough to have like a conservation team who do a lot of tree work up on the hills. So any like ash and stuff like that that has got dieback, they'll stick in like a huge kiln, and then they do all the hard work, and then they just bring it down in like a ton bag of like quite chunky stuff. So we soak it first in an FPJ, that fermented plant juice.
And what is a fermented plant juice?
We've got a big comfrey patch out the back, and we chop it all up and mix it with equal parts sugar, weight, and then we leave it for about 7 days, and then you end up with this really nice, sort of really dense, nutrient-rich juice, basically. You can also do it with nettles as well, but we're such good gardeners, there aren't much nettles.
Right, so I'm going to start making some biochar in here.
Yeah.
And the first step is, once you've taken that flame concentrator off, is to fill it up with dry wood chip.
Is there any wood that's best?
I prefer using oak and ash, so it's very porous.
Yeah.
So all the cell structure stays behind in the biochar,
Okay.
which improves the quality of the biochar when you go to use it, because it increases the porosity.
Okay.
So that will improve the water retention of the biochar.
Okay.
It also won't go up so quickly. So if you put something like pine in, so you can see that this has got a bit of pine in it,
Yeah.
it will actually go up like a rocket. And then you've got less time to cook on it, less time to enjoy it. And then we put this on top, so that stops the wind knocking it out.
Cool.
And then the last thing to go on is this. Then we just leave it to get going for a little bit.
Great.
At the moment, because it's just getting going and there's some pine needles at the top, you can see this like slightly black
Yeah.
kind of emissions
Yeah.
of smoke, for want of a better word, coming off.
Yeah.
And that's because pine needles are high in tars and resins. So when the hot like flame hits the cold air, then it carbonizes really quickly, and so that's soot that's coming off of there.
Okay.
But once the whole thing gets hot enough, so as long as it's over 660 degrees, and this kiln gets up to 1,000, you won't have any methane emissions and you won't have any smoke, because at that temperature, that's when it starts to break down to water and CO2. So how did you hear about biochar?
I first really heard about it just before I started here. So I was a self-employed gardener. I was pretty organic anyway. I didn't really spray anything or do any of that sort of business. But yeah, it was mainly then. And then I ended up getting the job here, and found out that they actually like produce their own. So that was the start of it really.
And prior to that, when you were freelancing as a gardener, were you ever transitioning people towards organic?
Yeah, towards the end of when I was doing it.
Yeah.
You know, if everyone just did a little bit of composting or whatever at home, it just, it'd be so much better for the environment, everything, wouldn't it? So yeah, I was steering people towards that.
Yeah. Some of the chemicals that are used in, I guess, more conventional gardening, so not organic, can be so damaging to our health as well as the wildlife. Yeah,
definitely. That's why I made these T-shirts, which was...
You made those?
RIP microbes. Because I used to have one customer in particular who used to just chuck this stuff everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And and he made me do it as well. And so I'd be like chucking it on the beds like every spring.
Yeah.
Hated doing it, but it's what he wanted me to do. And it was only when I started like reading into it and all the soil health stuff and you just realise how bad that actually is. I mean, it's just killing the soil.
Yeah,
basically.
absolutely.
There was no, like, in the soil, there's no real life.
Yeah. But
No.
I think it's changing. So I think like the positive thing is you guys are here demonstrating that organic gardening can be beautiful.
Yeah.
And also, we exist and people care more about soil health. So they're getting into things like biochar.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting. Look, we speak to loads of customers who are sort of just starting out, and they're thinking like how they've got the same problems that we have here, but a lot of it is just patience. It's about having time to just go, okay, well, that's not going to work this year, but eventually the system does right itself.
Yeah. I was going to ask, how do you stop slugs? Because there doesn't seem to be that much slug damage.
No, we use a few different things. So we feed the birds all winter. So all winter, we've got about 3 sets of feeders in here, and they're constantly full.
Okay.
And then when it starts warming up in the spring, we just take the feeders away, and then the birds come in and they have to sort of look in.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's good. It does work, definitely.
So I'm just going to check to see how far the fire's moved down. There's a really simple method where you just flick water on the side of the kiln, and where it's steaming straight away, there's biochar, so the fire's already been there. We've probably got about this much more for the fire to move down, and then we'll be ready to put it out.
So one of the main things people always ask about when we're talking about biochar is, what's the main difference between biochar and charcoal?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I get asked that a lot. The main difference is the temperature that it's made at. So charcoal made in a traditional way, like in a ring kiln, that's made at roughly 350 to 400 degrees. Whereas this biochar has been made at about 800 degrees. That difference in temperature means that the porosity of the char that comes out is way higher. So the traditional charcoal, it might have a bit of a smoky smell to it, which is why people tend to use it on a barbecue.
Yeah.
That's all the tars that are left behind because it was actually cooked at a lower temperature.
Oh, right, okay.
And that inhibits the microbial activity in the soil. Whereas a biochar is just a cleaner version. So same feedstock can go in, but you make it at a much higher temperature, about double.
Yeah.
And you'll get a more porous char that won't have any tars left in it.
Okay.
Have a much higher carbon content. It'll be more stable in the soil. I guess it's kind of a more refined horticultural product rather than a barbecue product. So just different applications.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be fine. If it was bigger and chunkier like your biochar that comes down from the woodlands, I would crush it up, but that's absolutely fine.
So it comes down to us sort of like this size, and then we basically just bash it all up, and then we put it through a sieve. So we've got different grades, really. Wouldn't do the whole thing.
Okay, you tell me when to stop.
I'd say about now.
Okay. Oh wow, you really don't need much.
No, if you do one batch, it pretty much lasts us nearly a year.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Good.
I would say there's probably about 10 litres of biochar in here, maybe a bit more. I'd have the same amount of water.
Fine.
Also, if you do it this way round, so the pores are filled with water and nutrients from your comfrey tea, you don't have to water your plants after you've planted with it.
Right, okay.
Because biochar holds 5.7 times its weight in water.
Yeah, amazing.
So it's incredible stuff. When you make your compost, does it just come from all of the residues of the garden?
Yeah, it's all, any cuttings, grass clippings, basically everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, this looks good. Good amount in there. You do want to be able to see the biochar, so there has to be enough that you can see it.
These have been looking for a home for about 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell.
Maybe one of these. Some of these ones. They're full of biochar.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
they look really healthy.
There's loads in there, yeah.
Really thick stems.
Yeah.
If you had to convince somebody to switch to being organic, what's the main reason, from your perspective, to garden organically?
We don't need all these synthetic things going into the soil, especially for food production. It just seems crazy if you're, like a small scale place like this. There's no reason to be using chemicals basically at all. Thank you very much, Lottie, for coming to Yeo Organic Garden today and teaching me, and I'll pass it also on to the team as well about all the different ways to, producing and using biochar. It's been great.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.